alcohol, but the refrain from using intoxicants is a very clear to me a matter of life and death, which when I joined this group and started chanting the eating dogma, it struck me quite forcefully. I guess you would say. This was like, this, I'm in the right place. So a couple of different things. One of the things that came up when I was considering what to talk about tonight was, in my experience, using intoxicants, being deluded, it didn't start out that way. You know, it was using intoxicants were just fun. I'm not sure about, you know, in the Buddha's day, conviviality, you know, if it was the same. But I associated intoxicants with fun, and you know, years and years and years of that. So my primary delusion when I became older was a very human desire to experience joy and happiness. And through the physical effects of an addictive substance, through the mental patterns that I've worn in neuroscience, the neural pathways, I continue to use intoxicants while not like seeing the effects of them and not seeing the effects of them. And so that's a super fundamental delusion and what I would consider a separation between my body and my mind. That's the way I looked at it at the time, and it's still a fairly good understanding of the way I need to work with it. I picked up the practice of yoga, yoke, to rejoin the body and the mind. I thought that would be very helpful, and I think it was. But in my experience to this day, for instance, this morning, so there's this distinction between my physical experience and my mind. A friend mentioned a chili omelet a few months ago, came to visit. You know, it's been in my mind for a while. And again, this morning I was hungry. I don't usually do well if I eat before I go to work. So I usually don't eat before I go to work. This morning, I had this physical hunger, and then my mind came in with some input that regardless of my past experiences, physical experiences, my intellectual understanding of I don't do well when I eat before I work. So I kind of rationalized by, well, I'm going to be doing lawn mowing and be walking around. I won't eat too much. But the bottom line was my mind worked to rationalize behavior that I was fairly convinced or knowing, because sure enough, I go to work and I was like, wow, uncomfortable yet again. So this brings me to the idea of working with delusion on a daily basis. You know, I don't do intoxicants anymore. Fair enough. Delusion, I practice with all the time. And in some respects, I still see it as matters of life and death, because with the intoxicants, it was a clear road sign ahead, death. You know, with practicing with my daily delusions, right? In my vida diaria, it's life. I'm living my life. And the delusions that my daily delusions are not so much as an intoxicant to how I live my life, but they're that filter, like anger, like resentment, like anxiety, like any emotions that come up. Like my body will feel these things come up in my life. And then from my understanding, the brain jumps on board and not necessarily rationalizes it. It determines the causes, assigns the causes and effects or causes, conditions. It makes sense of it all. I have a very imaginative mind, and just a footstep to add intoxicants to my imagination is like throwing an accelerant on a fire. That's something that's come up for me. It's like delusion. Have a drink and it just is take off like a brush fire. So my mind is predisposed to imagine things, imagine connections, imagine good things as well, and bad things. This was where a couple of things came up for me. I've been practicing a little bit lately with Stephen Levine's with A Year to Live, and him talking about opening the heart to pain, right? With tenderness, right? So areas that, or even anxiety or fear, and the distinction between something comes up and it's my anxiety, my fear, my trepidation, my injury, right? Any of these things. And it was just a simple idea of like the injury, the pain, the anxiety. And a way to do that is, I imagine opening my heart to it, which goes directly to my Zen practice. Ever since I've been sitting in this room since 2016, trying to relax my shoulders and open my chest so that I can remove the barriers, the guarding that guards my heart. So I've learned to do that. And now I think of what I'm trying to do is integrate heart with the mind. So in some respects, I've got this physical body that has natural urges, hunger, whatever it is. And then the mind comes in and wants to help and determine these causes. And that mixture is a very potent mixture for delusion in my experience. I am constant. When I heard of someone asking Maizumi Roshi at a party, are you enlightened? And I think as far as I remember, what his comment back was, no, I'm thoroughly deluded. And that's kind of like how I feel. And it's just little delusions. But if I notice them, they're not quite, they don't have the traction that they normally would have. And as I'm working with this new Stephen Levine thing, he's just giving me a new way to look at what I've been practicing since I began coming. Physically putting my body into a posture, opening my heart. But then the additional thing of literally, I think the word I've come up with lately is a balm, tenderness, compassion to my own heart, to another person's pain. It's the way I think that diffuses my mind's tendency to assign erroneous causes and conditions, causes and effects, and it goes into scenarios. Well, maybe this is it, maybe that's it, maybe this is it, and making assumptions. I'll kind of circle back into, my body, my mind, with the solution in the heart. And of course, when I think of those, three things, I think of how do I work in the three tenets, I guess they're called, the not knowing, bearing witness, right action. These are really helpful for me to just nuts and bolts. I can't remember the list very well, but I can usually remember three things. And it's that not knowing is opening that hand of thought. My thoughts got my body feels stuff all the time. My nervous system, whatever it is, it's been on high alert for decades, probably most of my life. So when that reacts, the mind just kicks right in to what's going on, where's the danger? But my body is already reactive. So with the idea of not knowing, opening the hand of thought, those kind of things seem to be helpful for me to steer clear of putting a little bit of a distance between a bodily reaction, stress, fear, and the mind's wanting to help. and usually creating delusion that doesn't always help. So not knowing gives me the chance to open the hand of thought, open my heart, perhaps, and then experience. And this goes back to the experience of my life, right? I'm not practicing to not die. Right? I'm not this. That was, associated with intoxicants. I came here, I got off intoxicants. It was killing me. Fair enough. But now this is a practice that is wonderful, and I can lean into, bear witness, open my heart, and to be with the good things and the sorrowful things. What is there's another author I really like, Susan Cain, her new book, Bittersweet. And it really focuses on a variety of aspects of the sorrow and the joy of being human. This ties back into intoxicants because in my experience, when I first started, sure, I wanted to be happy and party and stuff, but also I didn't want to feel sad. So it's like right in there. Bearing witness and being able to develop the capacity to hold the sorrow. And then when I do that, I can notice the joy too. And the small moments. So my experience today with eating breakfast when I probably shouldn't have, I still enjoy sitting on the front porch in the sun for a few minutes. I didn't share my breakfast, but I had peanuts for the blue jay that showed up. But that has me the guidelines, and then right action. Sometimes it's righter than others, but I think these are workable. This is This is my working understanding of how to practice with this precepts in general. Which again, Bernie Glassman's idea of precepts, like the glass, we use the glass, and it gets dirty, we wash the glass, and we keep using the glass. Let's see, I think that pretty much wraps it up for me. This, like all precepts, I find a way I can practice with them every day if I'm present with it. And the first thing I could do to make that worse is to take intoxicants or to start just believing what my delusional mind has so many times in its effort to help. With some pretty bogus advice. So yeah. And, do for now. So we can go with
vows.
Numberless beings, I vow to serve them